Some thoughts on robotics, general AI. This is a preparation for NeurIPS that is coming up in 2 weeks. So I'm going to have a few episodes about this going forward. I want to start this one with some thoughts on robotics, just general stuff. Sometimes these types of episodes are really meant also for me to get back a little bit of scratch under the surface, understand my thoughts a little bit better, see what comes back if I just put this out there, that kind of thing. So let me start with Anna Karenina. All happy families are happy in the same way. All unhappy families are unhappy in their own way. Now, I'm not sure if that's what he said. I think that's what he said. All happy families are happy in the same way, and all unhappy families are unhappy in their own way. Anna Karenina. And I think that applies to robotics. All happy robots are happy in the same way, and all unhappy robots are unhappy in their own way. And I'm going to elaborate on that. So this is another Imran podcast. It's November 27, 2023. This is Krim Telco. For the day, the fund is up 2%. The market's flat. For the year, we're up 107.7%. Market's up 18.7%. We're up from about 89%. All happy robots are happy in the same way, and all unhappy robots are unhappy in their own way. This is another way to say that I think there is, or you could even say this in a stronger version, all happy intelligence is happy in its own way. All happy intelligence is happy in the same way, and all unhappy intelligence is unhappy in their own way. What does that mean? Well, in technical parlance, it means that there is a generalizable way to define intelligence. I think there is something that is intelligent that goes back to evolution. It goes back to human development. It has to do with recursiveness, adaptation, and the ability to learn from mistakes. I think those are the key ingredients of intelligence. It applies the same way to evolution as it applies to companies and startups. You have to find your niche. You have to iterate, learn from mistakes, and adapt. This is what intelligence is. At least that's the way we see it at Orange Capital Partners. And it's an open question. It's one of the questions I would like to put to people like Sergey Levin or Dita Fox, Jitendra Malik, those types of people that I follow in robotics that, in my opinion, are not just scientists but thought leaders, because they have this beautiful combination, a bit like David Deutsch has, of combining deep thought with technical expertise. So I am working on Dieter Fox right now. I'm going to have a formal discussion of his work within the context of part 3 of Coral 2020, my discussion there. I'm going to talk about his idea of generalizable robot manipulation. That's a little bit more technical, so I want to keep this episode a little bit more open-ended, philosophical. So again, all happy robots are happy in the same way. All unhappy robots are unhappy in their own way. Bespoke solutions for intelligence, it's almost an oxymoron. It's necessary on the way to find intelligence. I think it's necessary and it's healthy that we have a lot of bespoke approaches in robotics. Some people try language models, other people try engineering and control theory, and third, there's people that use physics. Now, what Dieter Fox is proposing, and I think that's something that I am absolutely online with, is we want to go real to sim, sim to real, real to sim. I think this interaction between reality, simulation, reality is one way to find this happiness in the same way. In order to find generalizable intelligence, I think we need to solve a couple of problems for embodied intelligence, at least. The path could be laid down in transformer technology. It's definitely revolutionized AI in the last couple of years. Transformer technology is, in a sense, supervised learning. So we're still in the same supervised learning regime where we just define other tokens than let's say in the case of traditional supervised learning, we define objects or pictures, and then use supervised learning to teach a machine what is a cat and what is not a cat. And now we're defining tokens, and we're teaching the machine what the sequence of tokens should be, and that of course has a more it feels more intelligent, right? Because you see already sequence. There's a time t it's a t component here, so things change with time, and therefore the prediction of a token changes with the prediction of the previous token and the subsequent token. I've listened to Yannick Kirchner's Q-learning video yesterday, and he introduced the paper, the Q-learning paper, the Atari paper. I'm not sure which one it is. Is it called Atari or Q-learning? But so the introduction of the idea of Q-learning by DeepMind in 2013, and that paper, I think, as technical as it is, and I wouldn't want to claim that I understand every detail of the technicalities, but the fundamental philosophy, of course, is the recursiveness of the Q function, which is that I am defining my current Q function on the action that I have right now, and then the subsequent actions, which again I'm going to ask the Q function to help me out with that. And this recursiveness allows for learning, and this learning is very similar to the learning that happens in transformers, and that's why Q star is all over Twitter right now. And I don't know exactly why that is the case, so I wouldn't want to be claiming that, but I think the recursiveness and the power of recursive adaptation is really what matters when it comes to intelligence. And this is the gist of this episode. Okay, all robots are happy in the same way, because that's what's going to make them happy. We find a recursive function that can learn from the past and that can also anticipate the future in such a way that the robot or the intelligence, let's call it robot, let's call embodied intelligence just robots for sake of the argument. The robot can it can execute a task good enough. That's the job description of a robot, right? Execute tasks good enough. Good enough is good enough. Another big, I think, takeaway from particularly Levin's and Fox's comments, which is that we don't need to be perfect in terms of robotics. Same way we humans aren't perfect. When I surf a wave, I'm not perfect. I'm pretty sure I don't find the optimal physics of surfing a wave, but it's good enough. And then maybe that's what distinguishes me from Felipe Toledo, which is like he probably finds the perfect trajectory, in particular when it comes to doing airs and all that stuff. So again, for most of our intelligence that we deal with on a daily basis, good enough is good enough. And then when we talk about Olympic athletes and that kind of thing, then maybe we need a little bit more. Now, if we can have recursiveness, and if we can find a way to incorporate a lot of data into the recursiveness, then there is a chance that we can develop intelligence in a way that is adaptive and that has this ability to generalize over several tasks. The door that I would like to open is the sim to real, real to sim door. So this is something that I'm hearing. It's sort of transpiring through the research community. Fox is talking about it. Malik's talking about it. Levin, a bit less. I think Levin is more of the offline RL camp, but I think the sim to real, real to sim, what it really means is it's solving the bootstrapping problem. That's, I think, the powerful idea behind this iteration of sim to real, real to sim. And what sim also allows is a little bit more exploration in policy and in reward function, right? That's, to me, is one of the biggest advantages of sim, which is not necessarily simulating the reality as well as we can. That's part of the problem, but the ability to iterate over many, many different scenarios, even with the same objects. Like you could have a different policy or reward function. The Eureka blog, the blog where NVIDIA introduced Eureka, discusses that, where they use LLMs to generate reward functions and then sort of go from there. I personally am very, very excited about this because I think if I, it's like the human experience. When a human does things, she often is stuck in a policy, and it really goes back to depths. So there's a lot more depth here than this might sound, because it goes back to things like religion. Okay, what is religion really? Religion is sort of a guideline for policy. If you apply RL to humans, and it also defines your reward function, right? That's what religion is. If I do well in school, then that is God is giving me His nod that I'm doing well, and that's what a lot of Protestants supposedly believe in. And then the Chinese are incredibly focused on luck and randomness and serendipity in their beliefs, so they see clues coming from there, and that's really, really deep. So in other words, I would argue, this is another argument I want to make here, that maybe if we want to build for the AI of the future, the embodied AI of the future, it's worth also considering having a religion for robots. In other words, robots need a religion in order for robots to be happy, and they're going to be happy all in the same way. I think that's one of the statements. That same way needs a sort of an overarching religion. This could be, literally like we have religions, because the robot needs to understand what it values, what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. Those are questions a robot needs to have answers to. Now we give it to, obviously we humans give those answers, and I feel like in Sim we can almost evolve those answers. We could, I mean, this is a tangent, but we could use the same to evolve our own answers. In other words, we could almost do experimental religion here or something like that, but experimental theology. How about that for a major? But my point is, if we have Sim, we have this ability to iterate over scenarios that we don't have without Sim. I mean, we can't really iterate. Let's say, how about and this is really very powerful, right? Julian Barnes's book, Elizabeth Finch, to me one of the best books I've read in a long time, asks the question: what if we had pagan religion in Europe? What if we had a pagan religion? What if Julian, the Emperor Julian, had not been killed in Iraq in 360 post Christ, and then Christianity doesn't dominate the Roman Empire and then Europe? What if pagan thought dominates Europe? How would things have been? And things could have been much better, much worse. We don't know, but we can't run that experiment as humans. Yeah, we can't. I mean, we just can't, right? We can't wait for 2,000 years and see how Christianity would have done, and now maybe try something new for 2,000 years. It just doesn't work like that. However, in Sim we could do it. With enough compute power, we can run societies and simulations. I think, as far as I remember, people in game theory and experimental economics do that kind of stuff. So there's some literature there to be consulted, which I'd be very interested in reading. But let's get back to robotics. What we can do is, in Sim is at least the low-hanging fruit is, how about policy evaluation? How about experimental robotics, which is we run the same new function with different how could we do policy evaluation, for example? That's one question. Could we run Sim to find better policies and reward functions? So those are the kinds of questions that are swirling around my head, and this episode is certainly not meant to be a closed-end episode. This is open-ended. I'm happy to discuss further with the comments. I'm going to bring this to NeurIPS and discuss this with hopefully people like Sergey Levin and Malik and Fox and others. And that's the idea. So to summarize this episode, it's an open-ended, thought-provoking episode where I'm stating the quote, all happy robots are happy in the same way, and all unhappy robots are unhappy in their own way, which means that there is a happy intelligence, an intelligence which is happy in the same way. There is some generalizable form of intelligence. I believe there is only one form of intelligence that will prevail. It's the kind of intelligence that evolution already has given us a blueprint for. It has to do with recursion, it has to do with finding niches, it has to do with adaptation, it has to do with iteration, it has to do with robustness. So, you have to be able to make mistakes and survive. So all of these things are part of intelligence. And I'm also very interested in, this is the second point, in evaluating policies and reward functions, and that's why I think sim is so powerful. So I'm a big proponent of real to sim, sim to real, real to sim, like this recursive, use reality to ground simulation, then run simulation to evaluate things like policy, reward functions, get back to reality, see how that acts, and then go back to sim. And I'm also I think this could lead to the solution of the problem of how can we have a religion for robots? Do robots deserve to have religion? I think they do. A religion, in a sense, something which tells them fundamentally what is right and wrong, what is a good thing and what is a bad thing. Thank you.